I hope you can hear me, and I hope the wind noise isn't too bad. I've come down to Old Allen's to fit a new battery onto the shepherd's hut, because our old van batteries are knackered. But I've come down on the Charge steamer, and the point of this video is to give you a bit more of an in-depth look, because I featured this bike in a previous prior video, and I believe it was the Velocipedian, and if you haven't seen his bike related stuff on YouTube, go and check him out. If you're into useful bikes, practical bikes, vintage English and Dutch bikes, 3 speeds, that kind of area, go check him out. But he saw this bike and he wanted to know a bit more detail about it, because he liked the look of it. So this is for you. As I say, it's a Charge steamer. I think these were produced in the year 2010, 2011, that sort of year. Probably not terribly popular. They're certainly not a current bike now. As you can see, this one is really getting some use on the country lanes around here, and is splattered with mud. I make no apology for the fact that often when you see my bikes, they are covered in a layer of grot. The bikes are functional tools, and as such I always maintain them, so they are always mechanically very good, but occasionally, or very often, they get a bit mucky, and occasionally they will get a clean-up. Now this bike came to me in as new condition. It was very, very clean. The chap that had bought it originally, he'd had a heart attack, and his doctor, so this is for the new battery is going outside, so this is a cover for it. Yeah, so the chap that had it originally, he'd had a heart attack, and the doctor had said to him, you need to do some exercise. That's my wax canvas bike cover that I made. If you want a bike cover, when you're going to buy it, it'll be plastic, but if you want a slightly more environmentally sound one, you can make one out of wax canvas quite easily. Yeah, the doctor had said to him, you need to get some exercise. So he'd gone out and he'd bought this bike, and I think from the sound of things, about 2 weeks after he bought it, he parked it in his garage and never used it again. That was, as I say, around about 2010. I actually bought it from a work colleague of his who had sort of like said, look, I'll give you something for that bike, and he'd kept it, and then he hadn't ridden it, so it basically got virtually no miles on it, even though it's a 10-year-old bike. Being a 3-speed, and certainly not a lightweight machine, it's an alloy frame, but don't let that fool you. The wheels, you've got 90mm drum brakes, 3-speed hubs. Nothing about that is light, but it is incredibly functional, and that's why I love bikes like this. I absolutely love functional, practical bikes. I mean, here we go. Right, warning, my face coming up again. I've ridden this bike down here carrying a big box. The back is full of stuff as well. My lunch bag. It's got, well now, because I've put them on, full dynamo lighting. Big basket on the front. You know, it's not what is called a cargo bike, But because it's a practical bike and a sensible bike, every single bike is a cargo bike if it's a sensible one. So the whole lightweight bike, got to be a race bike, all that, it just leaves me cold. It leaves me absolutely cold, because what's the point? It's a toy. If it's a race bike and it's carbon and all of that, and it doesn't have rack mounts on it, you know, or attachment points for things, it's a toy. And that's why I think people in this country regard cycling purely as a sporting activity or a child's activity, and so they don't take it seriously. It's not taken seriously as a mode of transport, because most of the time the bikes that are being sold aren't practical. So all you can do with them is whiz around the countryside at a weekend with a bunch of mates. That's about all you can do. It's always seemed odd to me that the more money you spend on a bike, the less practical and functional it becomes. Because beyond a certain level, you can't fit mudguards to it. You can't fit racks and bags and things to it. So they've had to introduce a whole new industry, because the bikes they want to put bags on don't have any mounts to put bags on. I mean, it's absolutely mental. But I digress. Sorry about that. Let's get back to the bike. So some of the things on this bike are purely fashion statements, if you like. The rear rack currently is not terribly practical. It's really long. It's longer than normal rack. It's much more like a Dutch bike rack, and with Dutch panniers on it, it would be great. It came with this box on, and I was going to immediately take the box off because it's so ugly, but the box is actually really useful, and I've bolted my rear light onto it. So that's kind of stayed there for the time being, but it looks awful. I mean, I'll grant you, it does look awful. There's a Brooks B67 under there, which is I fitted because it came with a huge, great saddle. One of those things that is comfortable for about 500 yards, and then beyond that, you're in agony. So, yeah, the rear rack, as it stands, Dutch bags, I think would fit on there okay. Although, yeah, distance to the pedal here, you'd probably not get heel strike because this is a really long chainstay. I haven't measured it, but well, you can see it's 26-inch wheel. From the bottom bracket to the tyre there is about 7 inches, so there is plenty of space. So at some point I'm intending to make out of more of this wax canvas material some panniers specifically for this. I think that'll be quite a nice little project for me. But 3-speed drum brake, so absolutely fantastic for winter, and not worrying about brakes getting clogged up and things like that. The original rims, these are the original rim. This is an original rim. Okay. 27mm wide rim with I think it's only a 2-inch wide tyre, but somehow it looks bigger. It might be because of the tread pattern, but yeah, I love these rims. I love the shape of them. You can't really see it probably, but it's a real nice curve, lovely shape. The front one, unfortunately, when I put the dynamo on, obviously the rim was different because I had this wheel already and I literally just swapped the wheel out. So this is the XL FDD, so that's the dynamo, hub dynamo drum brake. That's connected up. I hate this mess, but functionality, and on the winter roads, yeah, I'd rather have functionality than looking super smart. Little Pico 30 AXA light. It has an automatic function and an on function. I'll be honest, I've just got it on all the time. That's also by my dodgy wiring, connected back to the rear light, which has a stand light. And even though I've been waffling for ages, you probably can't see that on the camera, but there is still a little light in there. You won't see it on the camera. So that's most of it. The basket on the front is a Wold basket. Now I bought this for another bike. I bought this for my long haul trucker, and it was awful. It was throwing the steering off something chronic. And I was like, oh god, I've really wasted my money. What an awful thing. But I've put it on this bike, and it's been fabulous. It's really, really good, and it must be because the head angle of the bike there is so slack that the front hub. Let's see if I can get this in shot. There you go. So look how slack the front end of that bike is. I mean, it's like that, and the centre point of the basket is there. It's actually the centre point of the basket is behind the front hub, and I swear that's got a lot to do with it, because on the long haul trucker it's much more upright, and the basket centre was way over here, sort of thing, and it was just flopping all over the place. But on here it's brilliant. Now I'm sure the geometry of the bike, obviously, at low speeds it makes the steering very, very floppy. When you're first starting off it's very floppy, but when you're going, and I can never remember with trail, I have a real blind spot with trail, I can never remember if it's long trail or short trail, but whichever one it is, when you're going at a sort of a reasonable speed, not fast, but when you're going at reasonable speed, it becomes very, very stable, and it doesn't want to flop about. It wants to just keep towing that line, and that's what this does. When you're first starting off, it flop, and then once you're actually going, anything above walking pace, really, the bike is just absolutely wants to go straight. So cornering at high speed is not really a strong point of this geometry. Not that I tend to do much of that on this bike. But there you go. That is the Charge Steamer. I nearly said plug there. Very, very laid back bike. Very, very lovely. Very practical. If you can find one out there and you just like using bikes to get jobs done, I'd highly recommend getting one of these. Yeah, it's my daily driver now. I absolutely love it. I've got plenty of other bikes to choose from, but this one always comes out on me. So there you go. Thanks for watching. As I say, once again, if you haven't checked out the Velocipedian channel, do. He's a really interesting chap, and he knows his stuff. He knows way more about this sort of stuff than I do. So if 3-speeds and old steel bikes are your thing, proper bikes, check him out. And while you're on my channel, click across to the cycling playlist. If you watch this video all about bikes, you stand a chance you might enjoy some of the others. So watch some of the cycling videos, and yeah, see what you think. Bikes are a passion for me, always will be, always have been. So enjoy, keep turning those wheels. I always say that at the end of my podcast. So check that out as well. I'll put a link to the podcast in the description. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for watching.